Hello and welcome to ABW Radio. I went all Jason Davies then. Hello. No Kris again tonight. It's John hosting. Kris is somewhere hiding, probably behind a seat. He's gone to watch Alien tonight because apparently Alien's more important than Arsenal. He didn't really say that, but you can give him loads of shit for it. Yeah, we're here to talk about Arsenal's 1-0 win, last minute scrappy goal, always the best ones, against Leicester. Lovely stuff. Tonight I'm joined by Josh.
Evening. Thanks for that.
That's all right. I'm joshed by you, Josh. And I'm also joshed by Ellis. How you doing, Ellis?
Hello! Yeah, I'm all right.
Good stuff. Yeah, we're all in a better mood after the weekend and tonight's last minute winner. Hello to everyone in the chat watching. See Akib, Oscar, Ahmed, everyone, Danny in there as well. Give him some abuse. Anyway, shall we get on to the game? Start with the lineup as usual. We've stuck with the back three. We stuck with it for the FA Cup final, which I think was a bit of a surprise to most people. Kept with it again tonight. Some rotation, a few players come in. Obviously, we played a long game at the weekend, so some people had to be rested, and there were some injury concerns over a few as well. Josh, any thoughts on the changes to the team or anything you would have gone different with? I was a little bit disappointed myself that El Neni didn't start in place of Coquelin because I just thought we're going to have so much possession at home. We can go for it a little bit more against a Leicester team that's going to sit naturally and sit so deep.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Me and Ellis were discussing this in our WhatsApp group beforehand with Xhaka and Coquelin coming in, and the fact that that combination hasn't really worked in this part of the season that we've seen. I was more open to it, giving him the benefit of the doubt, because we haven't seen Coq and Xhaka in the 3-4-2-1 system that we played in the last couple of days or games. So from that, I was kind of, we'll see what would happen. I'd let the game play out, but I would have thought El Nene adds a bit more, is more similar to Rambo than Coquelin is, and probably didn't need the kind of defensive stability that you get with Coquelin in the game. Rob Holding being rested, I think, was actually a good move. He's played a lot of football in a short space of time. I think it was good just to save him, get him in for the North London derby. I expect to see him there, and hopefully keeping Harry Kane in his pocket once he's managed to get most of Man City's forward line out of it.
Nice, lovely stuff. I was... it's weird now, isn't it? Holding sort of being that first choice. Nacho moved into the back three tonight. I thought he did really well, looked very comfortable. Obviously, he's played centre-back in a 4 before, but that's first time in a 3, so looked quite good at that. Ellis, any thoughts from you? It was sort of, the early debate was, is it going to be Walcott through the middle or Sanchez? Started with Walcott. There was lots of people saying there wasn't a position for him in the system. I don't think it was his best tonight, to be honest.
No. I sort of similar sort of thoughts to Josh. We had sort of a discussion previously about Coquelin and how I personally thought he'd probably need someone a bit better than Coquelin. I was a bit surprised about having no defenders on the bench. That was sort of a surprise to myself, because if any of the sort of centre backs get injured out of Gab or Cos, you've then got to either revert back to a back 4 with only one centre back, or try and do 3 at the back with only one centre back, and perhaps drop Coquelin back in there. And for me, like, Juan Koscielny got injured. Obviously, we'd already used our subs then, but say Koscielny got injured earlier on in the game, in the match, and we did have a sub, then I think Coquelin might have to go back there or in defence, and I would like to see Coquelin and Gabriel together there. But other than that, I thought the formation was good to go for again. We'd done it twice now against Man City and against Middlesbrough, so it was good to see that again. But yeah, like you say, Theo didn't, for much of the first half, I sort of forgot Theo was really there. You didn't really see too much of him until towards the end, when he had sort of that good chance where it wriggled through and he worked Schmeichel. I think that was actually our first shot on target, one or the other. But yeah, I don't think that formation probably gets the best out of Theo Walcott. You sort of want him in as much as he likes to play up front, you sort of either want him in sort of a front 3, which are quite interchangeable, or sort of out on the wing where he can exploit his pace. But he didn't really do too much. But I think he's not the only one up there. I thought as a defensive unit, the team done quite well. I thought Coquelin and Xhaka were fine. They didn't do bad. But I think it was the creative players, the Ozil, the Alexis Sophia, who didn't really create too much and do too well. I think really out of the team, it was the forwards that could have done better, really.
Yeah, we'll come into the game itself, and the first half was kind of devoid of really clear chances for us. Had a lot of the ball possession, we're moving it okay, which I think we all, is kind of what we come to expect, and maybe we thought it might change a little bit under the system, but we still play the same way. I thought we played a little bit too slow. I actually thought Leicester had the better chances. In the first half, they had the back heel from Alexis when we're sort of clearing it out from our box, and the shot from Vardy, which luckily went wide. And there was another chance as well that I can't remember. Josh, do you think it's down more to just Ozil, Sanchez and Walcott? They just weren't on the same wavelength in the first half because, Xhaka was passing the ball around really nicely. We could keep the ball well. I thought Gibbs was doing very well getting to the byline, but Alexis was dropping very deep and there was no one really in the box. Walcott wasn't attacking from the back stick. Bellerin the same, the other side, he was getting into good positions, but he wasn't delivering decent balls if there was anyone ever really in the box. So, like Ellis said, you put it more down to the forwards than the rest of the team. So I thought sort of the back three and the two in midfield did okay.
I think what we were missing was someone moving beyond the ball and penetrating the back four. It was a bit like Eunuch sex, just no penetration whatsoever. And it's crazy because it's happened so often that we're keeping possession, which is a good thing. We've got to play it back sometimes to go forward, get the defence to draw out and push back in, and we can break them down. But missing Ramsey or someone more box to box than Coquelin meant that we couldn't do that. Xhaka was doing exactly what we'd expect him to do, be that quarterback sitting, midway through the attacking third, so he can pick up the ball, spray passes left and right and keep the play ticking over. But because no one was taking that risk, pushing the centre-backs, trying to break that line, that they didn't really have anything to do with it. So we then were really needing someone like Olivier Giroud or Welbeck, that presence where, if in doubt, we can just throw a cross in the middle. But that would probably have eaten, straight up into Huth and was it Bernoulli or
Ben Alayun?
Ben Luan.
Ben Luan, that's it. I keep wanting to call him Yossi Ben Alayun, but it's not. Yeah, it's Ben Luan.
Ben Luan, that chap. They look like they'd be pretty good in the air, so it would then become a bit of a scrappy one and play into their hands. But I'm not sure. Yeah, my fire alarm's going off again.
Oh, Josh is on fire.
Yeah. Oh well, I'll leave it.
Is Wilgrid come round? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll end it there, so you can go on and I can sort my fire alarm out.
Okay, well, I'll come to Ellis and let Josh go. Make sure he's not on fire or anything. Yeah, Ellis, the one of the issues, obviously in the first half, was Alexis was dropping deep, but even when he was, which in games earlier in the season has worked sometimes for us, he was giving the ball away a hell of a lot tonight. I know he's been accused in the past of losing possession and because he tries to do too much and stuff, and it's fine when you're going forwards, but he was losing it all over the pitch, and even his passing, which is probably one of his weakest aspects when you compare it to the rest of the team. It was so wayward tonight, and he was giving the ball away. It's just one of those games you just kind of have to write off because, I was talking to Jason and Steve and everyone else, and we're all complaining about how poor he was, and then he rifles in a shot that hits the crossbar. So it's kind of one of those, you can't afford to lose him out of the team because he's still got the ability to do that in games.
Yeah, I literally just mentioned that exact point in the chat box. He was like, I'm a big defender of Alexis, and I think sometimes the fans can get on his back a bit too much, obviously, because we expect quite a lot of him because he's given such high expectations to us as Arsenal fans in the 2 seasons he's been here. He's been quality. He's been one of our best players, or if our best player. But tonight, yeah, he was poor. Like, you hit the nail on the head. He wasn't dropping as deep as he normally did, and when he was up there, he was sort of just wandering around, being the Chilean lamppost, taking over from Giroud. And then when he did drop deep, picking up the ball and then sort of just turning it over. And you can go and say, oh, yeah, but he tries really hard to get it back. But after a while, if you keep turning it over, it doesn't matter if you're trying hard to get it back, you're eventually breaking down all the attacks. And it was frustrating, to say the least. And it wasn't one of his good games. And it is frustrating, but he's going to have a bad game. No one can be 100% all the time. Everyone has off games. And to be honest, like you said, he nearly scored the goal. If that was a couple of inches lower, then that's a goal, isn't it? And it doesn't matter if he goes sort of missing and has a bad game, but he still manages to score a goal. But he did today, and he was quite bad. But hey, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Just got to move on, really, and hopefully he can just get past that. I suppose he has had a long game against Manchester City, and you're then coming up against that Leicester team that at points had about 8 people in their own box, let alone in their own half. So it is hard to break down, but you just got to move on. At least we got 3 points at the end of the day, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if that shot's an inch or two lower, it's an absolute worldie, and everyone's jumping about all over the place celebrating. The other sort of chance we had in the first half did actually come from Theo Walcott, who I think you're right in saying he was pretty anonymous generally for the first half, and it was the one time that he actually ran at a player in the game. He does a little dink over, I think it was Hoof, to knock it past, and it sits up, and he has a decent shot from a difficult position, and Schmeichel gets down and makes a good save. Theo was frustrating for me tonight because, okay, it's a different system. He's not going to play as wide, but because you're tucked inside a little bit, you're running at centre back, so we're going to be slower than full back. So why not take them on and just run head on at them? A lot of the time, he was looking to play the ball back in or just give it to Hector and kind of abdicating any responsibility on the ball, which I found really frustrating. Josh, lots of people have spoken about Theo and how he might struggle to find a position in this formation. The inside right sort of position of those front three seems, in my mind anyway, makes perfect sense for him. So what do you think? Is it just a case of Theo just had one of those typical Theo games, or the system really doesn't suit him?
I didn't think the system would suit him when I first saw us go to it, to be honest. When you're looking at the other big team that plays in this formation, they're wide players, or not really wide players, but players that you'd put in the same bracket as Theo, your Hazards, your Pedros, your Willians, have got a bit more about them than Theo, than rather the one-trick pony that Theo is. That said, the game also wasn't really set up for him. If Leicester were more inclined to actually try and do anything this game rather than just sit back, take a point, and just hope for the best, then I think if we'd got a goal early and Leicester would have to actually play the game of football, then I think we would have seen Theo come alive with the game getting a bit more stretched, because that's where he works best, is just completely catching defenders off, just catching them off guard, running at them. And I don't think he had that opportunity because he's not that great in the whole, tidy football kind of Barcelona style tiki-taka. He is someone that needs some space to operate in.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because I know what you say about one-trick pony, but if your one trick is I'm faster than every other player on the pitch, just knock it into the space behind them, because you're going to get there first every time. But it's a bit of a broken record talking about Theo in that way. There wasn't a whole lot in the first half to discuss other than those kind of chances. Monreal had a header. Again, unfortunately, directed straight at Schmeichel. And I think the only other player who had a shot on target was it Coquelin. I think Schmeichel turned it round at his near post.
Yeah, I think he did. Bounce along the floor a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, decent strike from Coquelin. Still, just you're never going to score, mate. Give it up. But fair enough, improves his stats, I guess.
Even Mascherano's scored now for Barcelona after 500 games. So anything can happen. Dreams can come true.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll jump back into the second half then. Again, started off the same kind of way. I thought Leicester, they moved it a little bit better. Their midfield was interesting. Like Drinkwater, I thought was very lucky to not at least get booked. He put in some pretty meaty challenges, but They were trying to do the usual, exploit the space in behind and hit the long ball for Vardy to Ransu, and the knocks down from Ulloa. Again, couple of chances for them. The long throw-ins from Fuchs, the corners, that kind of thing. We weren't clearing our lines as best we could. I want to talk about the first sub. Danny Welbeck comes on for Kieran Gibbs. I thought it was a bit of a surprise. I thought Walcott might be coming off, and we switched to a back four. Do you think that was more, Ellis, a case of Arsenal going, right, we just need more forwards on, we're going to go for it more, or he actually thought the system wasn't working on the night?
I'm not sure it was going for his mind. I probably would have thought the first of the two that he just said, just get some more attacking players on, because if you think in that sort of midfield four, if you want to call it a midfield four, you've got Bellerin a defender, Gibbs a defender, Coquelin a holding mid, and Xhaka who's sort of a deep line playmaker, not quite a box-to-box up player, and then none of them are really used to getting forward. Obviously Bellerin did, as a attacking wing back, he's used to getting forward, and he was heavily involved in the play throughout the game, but nothing seemed to really come off for him. But Gibbs, for me, I think I prefer Monreal in that position over Gibbs, just because Monreal's a bit sort of more technically gifted than Gibbs. I thought even though he used to play as a winger as a youth, he doesn't seem to have sort of that cutting edge or that composure when he gets that far up the pitch. Seems to get sort of a nosebleed and then gets a bit confused or misses a pass or whatnot. And as for Coquelin, even though you mentioned earlier he did force Michael into a save, but as a player, he's quite limited, and it does frustrate him when you see him picking the ball up in those forward positions, because most of the time he's either going to just look for someone else and pass it to him, or sort of turn over the ball or shoot or do something. It doesn't really seem to pan out for him. So I think, Wenger just thought he'll bring on more of an attacking player. I was a bit surprised that it was Gibbs. I thought when I saw Welbeck warming up, I thought it'd probably be Theo, because Theo hadn't really done that much, and I couldn't see him taking off Ozil or Alexis, because obviously they're our two best players. But I was a bit surprised, and I think possibly it could be trying to match formation, get more midfielders, more attacking midfielders in there, and sort of try and nullify or get some sort of more space that we weren't really getting against Leicester, and sort of worked because we did end up winning it, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, Danny's just put in the chat, Wenger changed formations more times in the second half than he has in the last decade.
It's true.
Yeah, which is very true. It was much the same second half. Again, lots of possession, not creating too many chances. Still, Alexis giving the ball away. We keep doing this, firing the ball into the box when we haven't got a striker up front. Alexis dropping deep. Finally, we put Giroud on, so we've got a target to hit. Ramsey came on as well, which I think was the right move. Taking Coquelin off, you've got to go for it. This is at this point, it is just try and win every single game. Getting a point doesn't do anything for us. It wasn't long before Giroud was on that he met our friend who we keep mistaking for Yossi Benalouan, Josh. That challenge, I don't know what he was trying to do, climb up on top of Giroud or something. He's a very pretty man, but that was a bit much. Should that have been a red card for you?
I think if the ref had seen it from the reverse angle, then I would be very confused if he didn't give a red. Because when I first saw it, and obviously with the camera that we get for TV, it's generally in the centre of the pitch. So you get to see a player come through the back of Giroud, and you assume it's a knee, as per the normal way that a defender would go through the back of any striker. I know I would. But Belouan comes in and goes in with his foot, almost Nigel de Jong style, through the back of Olivier Giroud. And I think if he'd seen it, there's no doubt that should be a red card. Nobody can go in that high with your studs showing on a player. Even if it's in the shin, it's debatable whether or not it's more than a yellow card. And that high up, then it should be a red card. I think he was lucky, the centre back, to actually get away throughout the game with that actually being the first time he was shown a yellow, because I think most of his challenges were quite agricultural.
That's polite to say the least. I didn't get it as well, because it wasn't like it was a mistake and a mistimed jump or anything like that, where sometimes you give him the benefit of doubt. You just watch the replay back and it looks intentional. He looks like he's doing that on purpose.
Yeah, even the commentator, I think I had Tony Gale on my stream, which is so awful, but he did say that it looked like, from his experience as a centre-back, that the guy's letting him know he's there. You can do that with a knee and get a yellow card, and
Yeah.
studs up is just completely obscene. And
Yeah, I can give the referee a little bit a benefit of the doubt because he's the other side of it. So, but I think maybe the Lino could have seen that there. But Ellis, I take it you're the same opinion. That's a red card for you.
Yeah, initially I didn't realise it was studs up until Josh actually mentioned it before the pod. I didn't take much notice of it. I still thought it was yellow, but then didn't really watch the replay too much. But after you guys discussing it, I've just been looking at it, and it's disgusting. It should be a red.
Yeah, that's one of those things. We have to move on. I will say, actually, I thought the referee had a fairly decent game. There's a couple of maybe he could have booked some people a bit earlier, but he tried to let most of it go to let the flow of the game. Next thing to talk about really is the goal. Nacho, who I thought had a really, really good game. He's had a lot of criticism this season. I don't think it's all been his fault. I think he's suffered a lot from who's been playing in front of him and the midfield not really helping the defence out at all. Tonight he's asked to play in a back three. He's played centre back before, but this is different. It's different formation. He's done really well. He's come forward when he's needed to with the ball, and he just gets a really, really clean strike on the ball. Thank you, Robert Hoof. I must admit, when I first saw the goal, I actually thought Giroud had sort of handled it in and angled it, but obviously replay shows it came off Hoof's chest. Ellis, did you completely lose your shit when that went in, jumping about all over the place?
I did. I didn't realise how it had gone in. I saw Nacho strike it, and there was some sort of deflection in there. I didn't know who had it, and I just went mental. I was loving it, and I like I say in there, I really like it when a team is so defensive, and then you manage to score like sort of right towards the end of the game, and to score it with a deflection off a defender makes it even better, and especially Rob Hoof after he's been a bit of a knob towards the end of the season. So yeah, I'm glad it went in. I'm glad it was Rob Hoof, an own goal.
Yeah, it was. It was brilliant. I mean, I'm disappointed Nacho doesn't get the goal, but it's nice that it's a Hoof own goal.
Well, he gets an assist.
Yeah, maybe he does. I don't know how that works actually.
Well,
but yeah, really, really scrappy goal to score. Josh, did you kind of think sort of that late onto the game, it was all we could do was just try and pump balls into the box and hope for something, because everything we tried before that just wasn't going to work, was it?
yeah, I think we saw this when we played Leicester at the Emirates last season. It was a last grasp goal from Welbeck at the time, from a pumped in ball to there. And I think we deserved it from the balance of play. And I don't want to go with Jermaine Genius about how we were the better team and how we should have won it, but we were deserving of the win. I think we showed a lot more endeavour to actually play a game of football, and we were just held up by a team that just didn't want to play football with us. And it's great for Monreal. It's 2-2. I'm going to give it to him because he doesn't get many, and he should be applauded when he does. But yeah, I think it was the only way we were going to score was by hook or by crook, to be honest. And I'm very happy that it went in eventually.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen what Josh is referring to, just look up Jermaine Genius in the after the FA Cup semi for Spurs Chelsea. I do not like Alan Shearer or Frank Lampard at all, but they absolutely rip the arse out of him. It's so funny, and he's so annoyed. It's absolutely brilliant. Right, anyway, carrying on with the game. After that, Arsenal did the typical thing, obviously, of letting Leicester have about 3 chances to score a goal. Luckily, they didn't. Should we talk about the throw-in? The Christian Fuchs Alexis thing. Josh, I think you looked up the rules for this, didn't you? The yellow card that Alexis got for standing too close to the line. Yeah,
when I initially saw it, I did think that it was for encroachment from Alexis. However, the way that the ref has managed it is absolutely appalling. It's a bit like if the wall encroaches at a free kick, you normally give a warning to the player, say move back, you've got to be, and the rule states 2 meters/2 yards. I don't know who's out there with a measuring stick to check the difference between that, but that's exactly the rule. You've got to be far away from there. But what Fuchs does afterwards doesn't matter if Alexis is in the wrong or not. The guy needs to get a second yellow card and he's off. And I think that's the reason why the ref doesn't give it, because he's had to actually make a proper decision and send a player off. Because I think if Fuchs isn't booked, then both players gets a yellow and we don't feel as aggrieved because we're like, fair enough, you know, like when you have any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, like argument or falling out between two players, that they'll generally move to booking both and we're like, well, call it quits. But I think because the second yellow would have resulted in Fuchs being sent off, then the referees bottled it, to be honest. And I think otherwise, I think he did have a really good game. And I think Jason Davis just put in the chat that it is violent play, and that's exactly what it was. I think, second yellow, it needs to be reviewed, but obviously because the ref's seen it, I don't think the FA were allowed to take any further action.
Yeah, I think that's the rule, isn't it? Yeah. Ellis, your reaction to Alexis' top shithousery in that game, because the way he went down holding his face after the ball had come off his shoulder was just magic.
It was, yeah, and I completely agree with like Josh. Like the referee didn't manage that at all. Like he's got that fucking shaving foam shit on the side of his pocket. Like if he's that worried about someone not standing back 2 meters, use your shaving foam and just go, yeah, there you go, Alexis, don't step in front of that line. But obviously he doesn't, and then Alexis gets thrown his shoulder and goes down like he's been shot in the face. And if that was another player, we'd obviously be a bit pissed off. But like what Davey said in the chat, if it's violent conduct, it's violent conduct. He should have got a second yellow and been sent off. He then goes down the pitch as well, and sort of him and Alexis going for a 50-50 if you're going to be kind to Hoof, and then he just sort of rugby tackles him and gets his arms around him as they go in. So he could have even got another yellow then. But I think the referee lost a bit of control towards the end, and it was a mixture of Leicester players feeling a bit aggrieved that they'd conceded, and then Arsenal doing their typical shit in their pants as soon as they're 1 goal up, and it's getting towards the end of the match. But we come out of it in the end, so that's all that really matters.
Yeah, so the game ended up finishing 1-0. I agree like you boys. We were definitely the better team and we're moving it okay and everything, but just not enough chances created. I think the one problem for me was, and it's not to have a go at Coquelin because I actually thought he had a decent game. His best game he's had for a long time, but I just think when you've got a team that's going to sit so deep, you need another midfielder next to Xhaka who's, like Josh said, going to make those runs in beyond or be a little bit more creative because Xhaka can't do it all on his own. But also, to be fair to him, Alexis and Ozil weren't on their best form tonight. So, but we'll take it. 3 points is what we need. Gets us a little bit closer to top 4. Still going to be very difficult, but we'll see what we do. Jason Davies is asking me to talk about it. I'm not allowed to talk about that thing that you're typing about in the chat, Jace, just in case it's possibly libelous. But if that really is...
your shit beard?
Well, I can talk about my shit beard, but if that really is someone's mum, then... That's amazing. But be careful, people, because if you go on Twitter looking up things about people's mums, you might not want to watch. But good on the girl. Great technique. Anyway, there wasn't a whole lot in the game to actually talk about. So if anyone in the chat does have questions, please feel free to fire away. I did just want to talk about Xhaka as well with you boys whilst people start putting questions in. For me, he was man of the match tonight, and I think it just highlights the advantage of this system that gives us. All right, granted, tonight we're playing a team who are going to be very defensive, but playing at 3 at the back, he can be the deepest midfielder, and you don't necessarily have to have a destroyer next to him in midfield because there's a bit more solidarity behind him because there is 3 players behind him, so he can sit deep and he can ping the ball about. Do you think this system might be one that can get the best out of him? And something you'd like to see? Obviously, it looks like we're going to use this for the rest of the season at least, but something maybe moving into next year. Josh, I'll let you have a go on that first.
Cool, thanks.
Not the person's mum, sorry, no. Just to clarify.
No, I was wondering if it was related to the whip round that Danny was having, but maybe not. In that case, I would like to see Xhaka in a midfield where he can perform, because I don't think we've got the best out of him at all this season, really, until we've moved to this particular system. I think he could also work in a 3-man midfield, something we also haven't done this season. But I think while we've got it, we should stick with what's working. And if it gets the best out of Xhaka, we're also getting some absolutely incredible performances out of Gabriel, a guy who I think has been given a lot of shit across this season for how he's played. I've always thought he is a good defender. I think he does have a role within Arsenal. I think the only way that he should be sold is if we get a replacement for Koscielny rather than get a replacement for fourth choice centre back, because it seems a backwards way of actually replacing talent. But I think, yeah, both of those players are, if they're working in this system, we've also, no one's playing badly really in this system at all. So I think we should just continue with it until we start getting wholesale problems around the field that we were getting with the systems we were putting out before. Whether or not this has come from Wenger to move to this system, or if it's come from a third party, I'm not so sure. I've seen tinfoil hat theories to suggest otherwise. But overall, I think, Xhaka had an absolutely fantastic game, third in a row, and long may it continue.
Yeah, Ellis, any thoughts on that further from what Josh has said?
Yeah, I was listening to the Arseblogs podcast with Ian Wright, the interview with Ian Wright last Friday, and he was sort of talking about Xhaka and saying how he may have just sort of been plonked in there with no sort of instruction on what to do, which is a bit harsh on the guy. But I think with this formation that they've got at the moment, like you say, he's got more solidity behind him with the three centre-backs there. So he's got that more time on the ball to make his passes, and he's good at pinging those balls around, like you said. And I think this formation definitely gets the best out of him. And I'm not sure what his passing percentage was, but I feel like in the last 3 or 4 games of Xhaka, his passing's been really on point. He hasn't turned it over too much. He must have quite a high percentage of passing. It'd be good to see like the stats behind that, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But I've been pleasantly surprised with him in the last 3 or 4 games, definitely.
Yeah, that's kind of more the sort of player that I saw like the last couple of seasons when I was watching him at Gladbach. More the sort of performances. Still got that little edge, and can be wound up and stuff. But I think that is something you can coach out of a player.
We don't have anyone like that in our squad, though. We don't have any nasty bastards, and there's a lot. It can be a bad thing. It does make you sort of your bum tighten when he comes off the ground for a tackle, but it's nice to have someone a bit nice in the team.
John, oh yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
John, just a question back to you on Xhaka, because obviously you've seen a lot more of him than me and Ellis probably combined, even for our hipster credentials. Where we've got Xhaka in this system, where he's got a bit more cover for him, is that where we're seeing him be a bit more conservative with his tackles than before, where he only had really 2 centre-backs behind him and not really a destroyer next to him because Coquelin was upfield, that he had to be a bit more aggressive in his tackles, which isn't his game? And is that where we're seeing him now become a bit more, not cautious, but as I say, conservative with his tackles?
Yeah, at Gladbach, like his best season was probably when he had Christoph Kramer next to him, and who would do a lot of his running. And they play a back three at times, not always, but he always had people around him, and it wasn't necessarily his job to make the challenges. He'd be more closing sort of passing lanes down, interceptions, reading the game, and he wouldn't have to be lunging into tackle. So that certainly helps. Although first half of that season he did get sent off 3 times, so he's still got that bit in him. But second half of the season he was much better, and I don't think he even picked up a booking, to be honest. So I just think if you've got that, oh god, Josh is on fire again. If you've got that security behind him, you can get the best out of him, and if you give him that little bit of freedom, then he can pass that, and he can do all that kind of thing. Not saying that he's like Pirlo, but it's kind of like what Juve did with Pirlo at Juventus, where they just let the other midfielders do all the running and the hard work and just left him to pass the ball around, and he could just sit in front of the back three and have as much time as he wanted on the ball. But anyway, we shall get on to listener questions or watcher questions, whatever you want to call them. So we've got quite a few. Here we go. Question for the panel. What do you think of our decision making when it comes to passes and taking shots? I thought a lot of them were really bad. That is from Unique79. Ellis, what do you reckon to that?
I think Arsenal sort of have it inbuilt into them to just pass it and pass it and pass it, and everyone always moans about Arsenal always trying to pass it into the net. And I think sometimes our decision to pass when we could make a shot is sometimes wrong, but in this match in particular, there was a lot of bodies back for Leicester, and they were defending quite well. So it's hard to get a decent shot off. It's hard to, when you've just literally got a wall of blue defenders, like quite big guys like Morgan and Hoof in front of you, like it's going to be hard to get the shot off. So you're probably just trying to pass around and find a bit of like space, and it's something that's sort of ingrained to our players. They constantly do it, and the amount of times we've sort of seen players sort of get it out into the wing and then recycle it across the box to the other wing and then back again, and then we'll either turn it over or try a through ball or something like that. But I think people were getting a bit frustrated, and you could see that with sometimes we were taking shots, like even Coquelin was coming up and taking a shot, and you're not used to him doing that. But I don't think the decision making's too bad. Sometimes we do try to walk it in and we should shoot more, but I think it's hard to really point it out in a game like this when one team is so defensive. I think it's going to be hard for anyone to break down a team when they don't commit that many men forward and have so many men back.
No, fair. We got one from Akib. All right, Akib, I did. What is your ideal starting 11 with this system? Okay, this is good. We can all have a go on this. So I assume we all agree goalkeeper Petacek?
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudging. Oh dear. Oh yeah, Josh is a bin fan.
He saved a near post shot today. I'll have you know, Josh.
He did do that. Yeah, he did. Starting centre backs. I'm guessing Cos is one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gabriel on the right.
Okay. Ellis?
Getting in early on that one.
I'd rather have Mustafi on the right.
Okay. And who would be your left-sided centre-back?
I'd like Rob Holding.
Okay. Josh?
At the moment, are we going with all fully fit? Because then I can say Rob Holding.
Yeah,
and I don't have to say Mustafi. Fit. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go.
Okay.
I'm going to go Rob Holding.
Mine's really. I see. I really like Gabriel, what he's done in the last couple of games, but I don't trust him, and I really like Rob Holding. So I'm going to go. I actually like Nacho, Cos, and Holding. I think would be good. And I'd actually possibly put Holding as the central one because I think his ability on the ball and his distribution from the back is very good and is important to the question we're going to Jace. Your two centre mids. I'm guessing we've all got Xhaka plus another.
Yeah, definitely Xhaka. The second one.
And who's your second?
At the moment, just because he's more attacky. It depends what team we're playing, but you want someone who's a bit more box-to-box and attacky. So for me, I'd go for Ramsey, even though he's liable to the odd stupid brain fart.
Josh?
Yeah, I'd agree with Ellis. Unless we're playing someone who's going to actually attack us, then I would put Rambo. Otherwise, I'd put Coquelin.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'd probably say Ramsey out of all of our other centre mids. Other than that, it's El Nene is the other option. Hang on a minute. No. What am I doing? No, it'd be Xhaka and the Ox. That would be my two.
Good shout.
Yeah. Okay. So left your wing backs. Mine, I've got Hector one side, and because we don't have anyone else, Gibbo on the left, who I did actually think played well tonight. Ellis.
I'd go for Monreal on the left just because I think he's a bit more technically better than Gibbs, and I'm not using him as a centre back. And right back's a tough one because I went for Ramsey at centre mid, so Ox has been good there, but then Bellerin was quite good as well. So one of those two, probably Ox if we want to attack in, and Bellerin if we want to be more defensive.
Cool. Josh?
I was going with Monreal and the Ox.
Nice. Okay. Oh, so no Hector in your team at all? Ooh.
No, he needs to have a little rest at the moment, sort his head out, realise if he's going to start eating meat again. Well, that basically. Just work out what he's doing with his lifestyle, whether or not he's made the right life choices up until this point.
Fine. I've just seen a great question from Dom, the bastard. And your front three, I'm really struggling with this. I mean, Ozil, Alexis, and another. Probably Welbeck, I guess, is my front three. Josh, Ellis, I don't know. Josh, what do you reckon?
Depends who we're playing. Again, just to sit on the fence, we've got that kind of squad that you can do whatever you want with your front three, depending on our opposition. Even though we've got a stubborn manager that sometimes doesn't do tactics, we actually have a squad that can. I would look to put something like probably Ozil Alexis, and Welbeck is probably a jack of all trades front three that can do everything you need to in that lineup.
Fair enough. Ellis?
Well, Danny's just put that Sonoga got a hat-trick for under 23, so maybe we could try him. Or, just for Kris, we could sign Lukaku in the summer and then he can play there.
Oh, yeah, we could sign Lukaku, Cavani. Who else does he hate? There must be someone else.
Kante, does he hate Kante? Probably.
Yeah, he probably hates Kante. Yeah. So we
Should we just name
up front.
Should we just name successful players across Europe? He probably hates them. Anyone but Mbappe. If we did sign Lukaku, though, we'd then end up with a forward line of one player chasing his first touch and the other one chasing his own passes in Alexis.
Oh.
Right, we'll get on to Jason Davies has asked. He says, hello! He didn't really. But he says, okay, lads, same old story today. Plenty of possession and a lack of shots to discuss. I think we kind of talked about it. We know we're not going to shoot much. It's just the way we play. I'm sure that Coquelin and Xhaka will be told off for those shots they did have by the boss, or he'll just ignore them for a bit and be moody with them, like that. Like, the sort of thing women do, and the old silent treatment for a bit. I just think it's just a lack of creativity in the midfield, and Ozil and Alexis were not at their best today. We saw the little offside goal that Alexis and Ozil partnered for that was really, really nice, but that was the best thing they did all game. I just think we moved the ball too slowly, to be honest. One from Mobile Horse TV is the Wenger. I always read it wrong. Is Wenger changing formation in mid-game a sign that he will stay? Is he trying to prove he's still up for it? Ellis?
When he first went for three at the back, I genuinely thought it was, it's him saying, oh, look at me, I can change, I can do a different formation. But I don't think him changing formation midway through is too much of a hint that he's going to stay. I think he's going to stay anyway. I don't think that he's going to show you that he's changing by changing formation. I think, in fact, it shows anything, he's more stubborn and sort of gone back to what works for him, having normal four at the back, because he's reverting back to type. But no, I think he will stay, but I don't think he's going to change too much about the way he manages, because that's just Wenger, isn't it?
Fair enough. Oh God, I'm sure he told me what his name was the other day, and I butchered it last time.
You're a butcher again, aren't you?
Yeah. You know who you are, so I'm not going to say it because I don't want to butcher your name again. And I'm sorry that I've forgotten how to pronounce it after last time.
Just call him Chanda for short.
Yeah, Chanda. Oh God, I hope that's not offensive. One for you, Josh. Why doesn't Ozil drop back into the centre mid? He can actually carry the ball in the centre and does not lose the ball much. No use on the wings and the front. He can ping balls to Sanchez and Giroud.
I think it's a good question. I think he does occasionally. I don't think he does it consistently enough, though, for when we occasionally need it. With the formation we're playing at the moment, we in theory should have two players in front of Ozil at any one time. So he should now have more options when he drops down. What we've seen previously across this season is either he's been the lone striker or false nine or whatever you want to call it, dropping back, and then in theory he's got no one to play it forward to, or it's just a Giroud, or it's just an Alexis who's probably too busy chasing a ball that he's lost, or I don't know, pining for his dogs. So I think now that he's got more options available in front of him and on the wings as well, because we've seen diagonal balls being hit a lot more often now to the opposing wing back. I think he's also got that in his locker as an option that he can hit wide players running. So it is something that can actually start happening under this formation a lot more regularly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Two quick ones that I'll just answer. One from Dom. What are you trying to do with your facial hair? I'm not trying to do anything. It's just growing. Leave it alone. Second one, but please feel free to keep giving me abuse on Twitter, as everyone does regularly about my shit beard. One from Swiss Tech Company. Okay, interesting. Someone please tell me why Walcott is playing, because we had to rotate because he played 120 minutes. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be starting at the moment, to be perfectly honest. One for all of us from James Perkins. If fit, would you bring Mustafi into the back three for the North London derby? Ellis?
Is he fit?
He says
Has he trained?
Fit. So I've got no idea. I don't know. But if
he was fit, then yeah, I'd probably pick him just because I will admit Gabriel's done really well, and then I thought against Man City he played really good, considering like when he has played in the past he's just looked like a liability. But although Mustafi hasn't been that great since he got injured and came back, but I just think I have a little bit more faith in Mustafi, and I think maybe 3 at the back is a bit more suited to Mustafi. You know, it's like he likes to go up and win the ball early on, and if he's got another 2 centre backs back there, then it's not as much of a risk than if it's only 2 centre backs and he goes forward.
Good answer. Josh, would you bring him in?
No, I'm pretty sure he's dead at the moment.
Fair enough.
No, we've got this starting, back 3 that has looked really solid recently. I don't want to fiddle around with it too much. We found something that's working. Well, why do we need to change it, irrespective of who's fit or who's not? And I wouldn't do it in such a crucial game to take such a risk. We've already taken a risk with Rob Holding playing him against Man City. I'd rather we take that risk again rather than throw someone like Mustafi in.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd stay with tonight's back 3, to be honest. I do really, really like Rob Holding. I just think it's such a big game that Nacho's just that little bit more experienced. If you do, the only way I would put Rob Holding back in is if you move Nacho back out to the left wing back position, which maybe Arsenal will do, just to give the defence a little bit more cover. But yeah, I don't think I'd bring Mustafi back in. Just Gabriel at the moment is earning his place. Again, I thought he was very good again tonight. Next question. We've got one from Danny that I'm not going to ask because that's ridiculous. Danny, you're an idiot. Chandru asked another one. Sorry, Chandru. I remembered now. Thank you for putting it in the chat again for me, for being a moron. We are missing the goal-scoring centre mid who can make late runs. Will Ramsey ever do that, or should we go and buy someone like that? Brackets, Vidal, don't let him take penalties, though. I don't know about Ramsey. I really, really like him, but he's just not finding that form. I think he has been overplayed at times, and I think he's been rushed back from injuries too much. But I do think, we're all annoyed with our sort of stagnation and the way the club has gone stale and certain things. And, we always talk about how much money we've got or, how great our scouting system and all these things behind the club, and we're not using them. So there's definite room for improvement for another centre mid. So whether it's someone who costs 50 million or someone who costs 5 million, I don't care about the price, but if you can get a better player, then I'd definitely go and get someone, because I do think it is something we lack. And, Ramsey is really the only sort of centre mid who does that. We had Rosicky before. Obviously he was hardly ever fit either, so that doesn't really help. So I would go and get one. Whether I'd get Vidal if we could get him. We had the option to before Bayern bought him, but we weren't interested. I know Jace don't like him, but he'd kick the shit out of some of our players and get them acting a bit smarter. One from Oscar Arias: will Big Per play this season at all? Josh.
I'm trying to think of our fixtures coming up. There's not really anything that we could give him a run out for. Probably the Emirates Cup. It's probably the next time we'll see him, to be honest. I can't think of any reason why we would play Per. As good as he is, we've got enough cover there, and I think with 3 at the back, you can't really bring a guy back into fitness, especially when he's got the turning circle of a small island off the coast of America. So I'm probably... I don't think we will see him, unfortunately. But he is our captain. That's the rule, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's basically you become captain, you don't play, and then you go and work for another football team. That's how it works, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's.
So I think the next question is, who's the next player in our starting 11 to not play a game ever again, and then but therefore become our captain after Per leaves?
I mean, Lucas Perez could probably do it, because that actually lines up perfectly with our next question. Turnip surprise for Ellis. Where's Perez? Has the pirate made him walk the plank?
I don't know. I've heard he's got an injury. Whether that's true or not, who knows? He's never really got a fair chance. Like previously in the season, when I think after he scored his hat trick, I mentioned that I thought he probably wasn't quite Arsenal quality, but he was a good enough starting quality, but a good enough option to have on the bench. But he hasn't even been on the bench recently, so who knows what's happened to him? Maybe he's just died and someone's just covered it up.
Yeah, I think he's got an injury, but I'm pretty sure I read he was in training. I'll be honest, I thought he was just dropped out of the squad and Arsenal didn't want anything to do with him, but I'm sure we shall see what happens with that. Next question is from K-Man Arsenal. Henri says only Sanchez would walk into the that team's lineup. You know what I mean? Agree or disagree? Josh?
I would disagree. I think there's a couple more players that would walk into that team at the moment. I think Ox would probably go in if we're going to play three at the back. He would come in for the guy who also really likes dogs in Kyle Walker. And probably a couple others would drop in as well. I think we'd probably see Ozil over Ericsson. You all right there, John?
Yeah. No, so
Okay.
I remember the first time someone told me about what you're referring to, and then I was like, "That's not real." And they showed me the video, and yeah.
Just broke him.
Yeah, so I'd probably bring in Ozil on top of instead of Christian Eriksen as well. I'm sure there's some others that I just can't think about. Probably Xhaka instead of Dembele. Ellis, is there anyone else you could bring in?
No. I don't know. No, you've probably named all the players that could, really. Let's just not talk too much about it. It's a bit of a horrible question.
Yeah,
We'll talk about them.
I think what Omri's referring to is probably just more the form they're in at the moment.
Yeah, they're not necessarily better players. They're just playing better, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think there's players from both sides that you could sort of swap about, but it doesn't really matter because whenever they get anywhere decent, like a semi-final, they fuck it up. Isn't it lovely? Next one from Unique 79. Oh, this is about Perez again, actually. Another question: where does this new formation leave Perez? Josh, could you see Perez, if he ever got the chance to play again, playing or doing something exciting in this formation?
I think he could do a job, but he could probably do a job in our other lineup. My fire alarm's gone off again.
Josh is on fire.
Yeah, he could certainly do a job in that lineup. Whether or not he will, probably not.
Ellis?
Well, he's not getting in now, so why is he going to get in with the new formation? I think he's probably a signing that Wenger didn't really want. It was quite clear that we wanted Vardy, and I think he may have been second or third choice, and he's just not really that into him. He's not going to play him. I wouldn't be surprised if he moved on in the summer.
No, fair. I think if he actually got the chance, I actually think he'd be quite good in one of the two wide forward positions. The times you've seen him link up with other players in the team, he looks like he's got quite a decent pass and he can beat a man. He likes to take players on, get to the byline and try and create something. So, it'd be nice to see him play again because he was sort of one of the bright sparks earlier in the season that we had. Jason, I'm not asking your question about how Mustafi got his thigh strain, but yes, that could be a logical reason. It's probably more likely how Wayne Bridge got his thigh strain.
The chat box is so wrong tonight. Talking about Carl Walker's dog and his missus and fucking John Terry's mum.
It's disgusting. Goonies in the USA. Our friends Goonies in the USA. Go give them a listen if you haven't listened to him before. Very good pod. Always fun. If Chambers returns to Arsenal, we stay with a three at the back. Do you look at him as more of a holding midfielder than one of the back three? Josh?
I've got quite a few reports on Chambers from his time at Middlesbrough because I work with a Middlesbrough fan, and also for the hipsters, I've got to unfortunately watch Middlesbrough, which isn't a pleasant thing because they just don't score goals. However, Chambers would work in a 2, or he would also work in a 3. As a holding midfielder, no, we've seen what happens when you mess around with a player and say, oh, you could play here, but you could also play here. With Ox, and a couple 3 years down the line, it's almost wasted with development if we just said to him straight out, this is where you will play, learn it. And I think that's what we should do with Chambers. He's a centre back, that's it. No moving away from that. He's not a holding midfielder, he's a centre back.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of him, but lots of people, like Middlesbrough fans, always talking about him on Twitter and saying how well he's done and how good he's been in the team. So I'd like to see him come back next season and see how well he does, because I can see some defensive movements in the summer. A couple more questions before we wrap it up, because we are trying to stick to the 1 hour show time if we can. One from Shivan Tata for you, Ellis. Should we let Theo go?
We were all saying we should last season, but he's sort of done what he normally does and comes in and pops up with goals. He's one of those players that will just be the invisible man for the whole game, but still somehow manage to score a goal. Obviously not tonight, but sometimes he does pop with the odd goal or two, and he's scored quite a few this season. But I think it all depends on the offer. If we get a decent offer from someone, then I'd be inclined to let him go.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing I will say with selling any player, it's always, for me, dependent on actually replacing that player. You can't just sell someone just to get the money, because if we're not going to do anything with it, there's no point. To be honest, because all you're then doing is weakening your squad to improve your bank balance, which doesn't help you on a pitch. One from Chandra again. Also on Walcott. He's popular tonight. Walcott clearly does not try the same against the smaller teams. Should he snort more cocaine before the games? Maybe. I don't know if that would be a good idea for Theo. He kind of lacks concentration as it is. I'm not sure that really helps.
Doesn't really go with his image either, does it?
Yeah, maybe more coffee. That's probably more Theo's speed.
He hasn't dyed his hair white. That's normally a sign.
Is that normally an indicator?
That's normally an indicator for players people who need to get stuff out of their system very quickly, as it stays there for a while.
What about dyeing a streak of red in your hair?
Yeah, I was just about to say, Kris has dyed his hair red. So what does that mean? No, we got no ideas. Okay. Just a few more questions before we finish. One from No Nickname Required. What's your opinion on Emil Forsberg? There aren't any sources linking him with Arsenal apart from the Daily Mirror, who of course cannot be trusted, but I just like the guy. Ellis, have you seen Emil Forsberg at all?
Nope. Sorry.
Cool. Josh, have you seen Emil Forsberg?
See the racing driver?
No.
No, actually, is he the guy that? No, he's not the one that plays for Sampdoria. I've been trying to catch up on all our targets, but there's only so many YouTube compilations you can watch at work.
Emil Forsberg plays for RB Leipzig.
I watch him all the time.
No, yeah, I haven't.
The Swedish guy. Okay. No. I haven't seen any links to him with Arsenal, but he's a very, very good player. I think he was leading in assists or something like that.
What position does he play?
He's like a sort of attacking midfielder, but he can get box to box and stuff. Ask Drew. Drew knows all about him. I only watch so much Bundesliga. I get upset when I watch RB Leipzig because they always beat my team. But yeah, he's very, very good, and he scores goals and he makes goals and stuff, and he's full of energy and running. So yeah, if he's available, then if that's the question, then I'd buy him. Whether there's any validity in that, I have no idea. I'd imagine he probably wants to stay with Leipzig because they've got Champions League next season. So who knows? Got another one from Phono Say No. This is for Josh. Who would you get rid of this season?
Oh, I've got a list as long as my arm, and it changes every so often. Get the normal ones out of the way. Debussy, Akpom, probably Lucas Perez, because unless he's doing something behind the scenes like admin work, it's probably not that useful around the club anymore. Jenkinson, if you could sell him to Brighton, please, that'd be great. Akpom, just sell him to anybody, not Brighton. Just get rid. He's not particularly useful. He'd do well in the Championship, but not for Arsenal. Per needs to probably go. We need a left back in, and I think this type of left back we get in then allows us to get rid of one of our left backs, depending on which type we've replaced, the attacking one or the defending one. Probably someone in our midfield who I've forgotten, and probably someone up front. We've got so many players at the moment. We've got a bit of deadwood. It also depends who the manager is as well, because they'll have their style and they'll want to, bring players in and out to match their style.
One more question. And then I've got one for the chat to go and spam Arsenal's Twitter account with, so we can go and sign him. But I'll leave that to the end. Marble Halls TV. Do you all think we can get 4th and Liverpool will be 6th? Ellis. After tonight's win, do you think we can do it now? Bit of momentum.
It's difficult to say because Liverpool have got fairly easy fixtures. I know they've slipped up to Crystal Palace recently, but Crystal Palace have been quite good. They obviously beat us. They beat Chelsea as well. And we have got United and Tottenham. United are at home, but it's Jose Mourinho, isn't it? You know what Arsene Wenger's record is against Jose Mourinho. The media are always good to bring that up whenever the game comes around. So it's going to be difficult. We've got 2 games in hand, haven't we? And we're 6 points behind.
Yeah, 2 on Liverpool, 6 points behind them. We're 3 points behind United, 4 behind City, level on games, but they are playing each other next. And City season is kind of fizzling out to shite.
Yeah, I think out of all the sort of teams going for that 4th spot, I can see City, like you say, like they haven't got anything else to play for now. I know Liverpool haven't, but I can see City getting 3rd. And if Liverpool were going to drop out, then possibly, like I think they're the ones we can catch out of all of them. But I don't know. I don't think we can. I think the best we can do is 5th. But I wouldn't be surprised if we did do it. We've done it in the past, haven't we? Like when it's looked completely gone, we still managed to scrape 4th. But who knows? I don't think we can, personally. My head says we can't.
Yeah, head says no, heart says yes. I'd like to... It's very weird. I want to be in the top 4 because it's good for getting players and money and all those things. But I don't want to be in it because whenever we're in it, we end up getting absolutely humped by someone, and it's really fucking miserable when you have those 2 games when you lose to Bayern Munich or Madrid or Barca or whoever it is, and that's the shit bit of it. So I think we can still do it just because City and United they've got each other, so maybe they get a draw there, could be nice. Liverpool tend to cock up against the shit teams, which is what they've got most of their running. And there's also the hope. I know Tottenham are, a lot of points in front of us, but it would be very, very Tottenham for them to lose their next 6 games and completely fall to bits. That would be fucking magic. But yeah, there's one last question I do want to answer before I tell everyone who to go and look up. It's from Jason Davies. With Kris putting Alien ahead of the Arsenal and his love of the cock, is it time for him to be put down? Jace, I want to say yes, but I can't, because if he is put down, it means I have to host every radio show because Danny's never going to get out of bed to do it. So I'm really stuck on the fence on this one. Ellis, what do you reckon?
Yeah, why not? We could do it on a radio show, and that'd probably get a lot of thumbs up or down, depending on whether you like Kris or not.
That's true, actually. We would get a lot of views for that. Josh?
We'd do it on a Periscope because it's more piratey.
We can make him walk the plank as well.
Exactly.
Bloody epic.
We've been thinking.
All on theme.
Yeah, carpenter around.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, make sure to go give Kris a nice tweet and remind him that he was terrible and didn't watch the Arsenal tonight. It's awful. But yeah, the player to go and abuse Arsenal, don't abuse Arsenal's Twitter account. Just say to him, oi, can you sign Patrick Schick? It's 25 million euros buyout. Simple, easy deal. Job done. And if he doesn't work out, you can sell him on for loads of money still. So it's not a problem. Anyway, that is all for the radio show tonight. I can't remember who is on this week's podcast. Does anybody know? I'm going to look now and pretend.
I think Danny is. I'm going to go with Gimli as well. And then I think it's Kris.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm stalling here while you find it.
And Simon,
Raj?
Simon and Jeff. So there we go. Yeah, all lovely stuff. So yeah, Gimli is back. Danny, obviously, Simon, Jeff, and Kris on this week's pod. So look out for that Thursday. Have some good fans for anyone who's a fan of Kate as well, who hasn't been on the pod for a while. She'll be able to be back on soon, which is all good news. Haven't been able to have both Gimli and Kate on at the same time for a while. It's a bit disappointing. So we have a bit of a female voice on, which is lovely stuff. But yeah, that is it for this week's show. We will be back with you, obviously, Pod Thursday. We'll be back after the North London derby at the weekend. I've got no idea who's going to be on. If you have any requests for people to come on the show for the main pod, you just go and tweet Danny. You have to go and abuse him at the GFP. But yeah, I don't know who's on Sunday, but hopefully it's for a win. Otherwise, we're all going to be fucking miserable, and we won't have to kill Kris because he'll probably just hang himself on stream instead from the forearm, Mast. That's the thing on the boat, anyway. Anyway, that's all for tonight's show. So thank you, Ellis, and thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, even if your beard is
And
shit.
thank you for Josh's fire alarm as well. This has been ABW Radio, and we'll be back with you at the weekend. Up the Arsenal.
Ta-ra.